Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Paytm Money Talk. And today's topic is microcap investing through Nifty Midcap 250 Index. I'm Neeraj Gogoi, your host for the talk, and this talk is powered by Paytm Money. In fact, for the last 2 years, we have had many talks and we talked about different topics. We talked about ETFs, mutual funds, large cap, mid caps, international investing, gold investing, and so many different topics. But this is the first time that we're going to talk about microcap investing. This is something very exciting. But before I start, let me tell you what the Paytm Money Talk is all about. So what we do is we try to get experts in the field with years of experience, and our endeavor is to consistently produce high quality content which can really empower and enlighten you in your investment journey. So if you're looking for some new content, new strategies, new ideas, this show is absolutely for you. And guys, today our guest is none other than Mr. Pratik Oswal. Yeah, welcome back. So Pratik is the president and head of ETF and Index Funds at Mutual Fund. He is very passionate about fintech entrepreneurship, looking to help create wealth for the future of financial service. And he's a big believer in power of compounding and India growth story. It's really exciting to have Pratik today as our guest. In fact, welcome Pratik. Welcome onto the stage.
Hi, hi, Neeraj.
Hey, hi Pratik. You
Hi,
might
Neeraj.
be terribly busy nowadays, right?
Uh, I mean, as busy as every week, I guess. It's
Oh, yes.
yeah. So I think
Yes.
in our industry, I mean, at least for me, being busy is great because it's doing things I like or things I love. So I think the happiest. If you ask my wife, the days I come late from office are the days in which I'm the happiest because
Okay,
we get to do really fun stuff at work. So I think very grateful and very excited to do all this and spend my time doing all this.
correct. So, guys, when we are going to talk about microcap investing, I'd like to tell you that Motilal Oswal is going to launch or is already on the way microcap to Nifty Microcap 250 Index Fund. So, this fund is be open till 29th of June 2023. But again, before we get into exact microcap investing, we need to learn a lot. And Pratik is going to answer some of my questions today. He's going to enlighten us. In fact, I am also a student to this subject. So Pratik, in fact, the market is pretty exciting. In fact, many people thought that market is going to break out today. If you look at mid caps, small caps, on the other hand, they have already broken out, right? Look at micro cap. Yesterday, in fact, for the first time, I was looking at microcap 250 index. What a phenomenal move it has given in last 2 months, right? It's like around that time. So, what do you think about the market at this point of time, Pratik?
Yeah, so markets are at all-time highs as we speak. So pretty exciting times. I think India is the one of the only countries where we've tested all-time highs after what we've seen over the last couple of years. So I think in that sense, it really speaks at volumes about our prospects as a country and in terms of flows coming to India. So I do feel that I think last 2 years we've had quite a flat market, and I think we've
Right.
given the market 2 years to sort of build earnings momentum, and now we're seeing sort of that earnings momentum taking markets forward. So I think it's absolutely great to see wealth creation happening again. In terms of microcaps, obviously microcaps tend to be very cyclical in nature, so they tend to move up and down very quickly. So microcaps are also very, I would say,
Mhm.
very volatile securities. So investors who are looking at microcap stocks, should be careful about the huge drawdowns that may come in microcap. So even if the company is doing perfectly fine, you might have times when the stock is down 20, 30, 40%. So I think it's a segment of the market where you need a lot of patience and a lot of conviction, but
Correct.
also the rewards are also quite high. Investors who are looking at becoming stock pickers, this is a stock pickers paradise. If you're able to, pick the right companies, and you also get the low base effect. I
Hmm.
think if you're investing in, say, Infosys or a TCS, doubling the revenue of Infosys is quite difficult, but doubling the revenue of a company that's 3.5, 4,000 crores is relatively less complicated. So I do think that this space offers a lot of opportunity for investors, stock pickers. It's a very under researched segment. So I think yes, investors have to be
Hmm.
careful, before they invest. And I think going forward, you'll see a lot more action in this space.
Correct. In fact, there are lots of viewers who are relatively new, young viewers. Uh, they might be wondering what is exactly microcap. So
Yeah.
yes, we have heard about small cap, large cap, mid cap, but can you just give a little bit more about what the microcap stocks are all about?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that's the most important question. What are
Mhm.
microcaps? And I think before we go to
Yeah.
microcap investing, we should know what microcap means. Obviously, we know that microcaps. There's a word micro there, which means small. But the question
Hmm.
is how small. Do we also have nano caps? We don't know. But basically, when you look at the top 500 companies of India, and I think this
Hmm.
is if the host can take us to a very good slide. I think it's slide 7. If
Okay.
you can put that on screen, you'll see that India's top 100 companies. If you rank every single company in India by size, so by
Hmm.
size, and this is all listed companies, public companies. The top 100 companies are large caps. So when
Hmm.
someone says I'm buying a large cap company, that they refer to the fact that they're buying a company which is the top 100 company in India. And
Hmm.
then when someone so that's stock large caps. Stock number 101 to 250, those are called
Hmm.
mid cap stocks, and stock number 250 to 500 are small cap stocks. So
Hmm.
basically 95-97% of India's market cap, if you combine the size of every single company in India, 97% of that will happen in the top 500 companies, which is large cap, mid cap, and small caps. Now micro cap is beyond small caps, so it's beyond the top 500 companies.
Hmm.
So if you have a company that's ranked 600, that would qualify as a micro cap company. And basically, basically investing beyond the top 500 companies of India. If you're investing in beyond the top 500 companies of India, you are investing in micro cap companies. So that's how we would describe micro caps.
Wonderful. No, you have again. You said micro caps are volatile. They're a little bit high risk, high return kind of a game, and also you use the word called cyclical. So I remember like when the small cap rallies or micro cap rallies, they give multifold return, right? So coming up, and you are launching the first, I think, micro cap fund in India, right? Yes. So do you think that going ahead there is going to be this are poised for a very good run up in the market, or we can see something good momentum happening in the coming years, coming
Yeah,
time?
yeah. So I think you can predict how businesses will do in the future, but
Hmm.
you can't predict how stocks will do. So I think when it comes to micro caps, we obviously, as you said, what does cyclical
Hmm.
mean? Cyclical means that these stocks go up in certain cycles, and typically most of these cycles are when economy is on an uptrend. You have basically different times of the market. When the economy is on uptrend and the economy is on a downtrend. So when India as an economy is doing well, you're basically seeing a positive cycle, and that's when a lot of these companies do really well. And when economy does badly, which obviously happens once every, say, 6 to 8 years time, what happens is investors tend to switch their investments from small companies to large companies. Why is
Hmm.
that? Because large companies tend to be a lot more stable. They have stable balance sheets, stable profits, and so and to sort of and because of this shift happening from small companies to large companies, small companies tend to do badly. So which is why small companies, when you're investing in small companies or micro caps, you have to be careful that these companies are very cyclical. That means when an economy does badly or when
Hmm.
there's a downtrend, these companies will go down by a lot like by a much bigger margin than, say, you have larger companies, say Infosys or TCS or Reliance, which will obviously do well across different cycles. So I think that's what I meant by cyclical stocks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when it comes to microcaps, yes, the uptrend has been there last 3 years. If you look at just this index, which is a combination of 250 stocks, it's delivered
Mm-hmm.
50% CAGR, which is quite something. And obviously, I don't expect that to go out by the same amount of the next 3 years. Honestly, I think investors should have low expectations. But I do feel that you can't really predict, how something will do over the next 3, 4, 5 years time. I know for the fact that or we know that over the long term, say over a 5 year period, these companies will do phenomenally well. But it's
Mm-hmm.
very hard to say specifically what will happen the next year or next 2 years, because it really depends on a lot of factors that are beyond our control. So I would say that yes, I'm extremely positive on small companies in India. I think if India had to grow, then we have to sort of really depend on small companies becoming a lot larger. But obviously the markets have their own way of doing things. So anyone who's investing in this sort of an index, or at least investing in microcaps, should keep that in mind. That I think somewhere you have to have a long-term sort of mindset for you to really create wealth in this category.
Wonderful. Now, again, you said somebody who has got a long-term kind of a mindset for them, probably, But again, do you think somebody who age has to do with this? Age. Now, suppose, somebody who is young, he has got good amount of time to create wealth. He can take risk, he can hold it for longer term, definitely. Uh, while the large cap are very stable, safe, do you think that young people can really consider seriously investing in microcap?
Yeah, I think age does not have much. In my experience, age has very
Hmm.
little to do with risk appetite.
Hmm.
Someone who say, I spoke to a customer of mine,
Hmm.
who's about, I think, 75 years old, and
Hmm.
his grandkids are all grown up.
Hmm.
He's saving. I mean, his kids are grown up. He's just saving for his grandkids, and he has no liabilities, so he can end up taking a lot more risk. You know, whereas someone who's
Yes.
20 years old, 25 years old, who's trying to buy a house in the next 10 years cannot afford to take too much risk. So I think it really depends on what your goals are. I think risk appetite and goals go hand in hand. So one is obviously you will determine what your goals are in life, and if your goals are very long term, say if you're spending for retirement, then it makes sense to take a little bit more risk. Perfectly fine. But if you're saving for saying buying a car or buying a house in 5 or 10 years time, then obviously you have to take less risk. That's number one. Number two is your risk appetite. Obviously a lot of people, in fact most people in India, I would say,
Hmm.
not have an appetite to take a lot of risk in terms of volatility. When markets are trending up, everybody wants to take risk, but when your market's trending down, everybody becomes conservative. So I do think that as investors, you have to really ask yourself, what is my risk appetite? Can I take so much risk? If the
Hmm.
market falls 50%, which does happen all the time, what will I do? Will I sell my investments? Will I add more? So I do think that knowing your risk appetite is key, and second is knowing your goals is key. Once you have these two clarified in your mind, then that's when you can start building a nice portfolio.
Wonderful. Now, what is the return usually we have seen in a microcap sphere? Like compared to Nifty, we know what has been the return year on year as a whole it's giving. So, what kind of
Yeah,
return that they give microcap basically?
yeah. So the return, I mean, if you want to see the return in the slide form, it's in the
Yeah.
slide
Oh, I
20.
think you got a presentation also. So why
No,
don't
no,
you
it's
take
fine.
it?
Yeah. I mean, we can go through the presentation, but I think
Yeah.
I mean, if you want, we can go through the presentation from start to finish. But we can always do a Q&A if you want. That's also a format, whatever you
Hmm.
would like. But basically, you're looking at microcap. If you look at returns, they're quite volatile. So
Hmm.
as I said, investors will have to take a long-term approach towards this side of this category of the market. Smaller companies tend to be a lot more volatile. So if you look at the
Hmm.
3 year returns, it's almost 58.1%, whereas the 5 year returns is 13.1, 10 year
Hmm.
returns is 24.2. So that really shows that this is it really changes from a time to time perspective. So I think investors should ideally look at it from a long term perspective. That's number one. Number two, point to point returns are not very important. I feel
Hmm.
like if you had to invest exactly 3 years from now or exactly 5 years from back, I think that's
Hmm.
not very practical. So I think investors, what they should do is look at either rolling returns or look
Hmm.
at SIP returns. And the SIP returns of this fund are absolutely fantastic. If you're looking at
Hmm.
SIP returns over a 1 year or a 3 year or a 5 year or a
Hmm.
10 year, it's all approximately 20-25% CAGR, compounded growth, every year. So I think for most investors, in fact, my personal recommendation is to really, if you want to really curb or if you want to reduce the volatility of your portfolio, I think the best ways to invest is through a staggered way or an SIP. And I think for this particular fund, I think an SIP is a great option because you get to invest across different cycles, and your returns also become a lot more sort of streamlined. So I think that is what I would, at least recommend to investors who are looking at this category, especially smaller microcaps.
Correct. Now, since we are talking about microcap investing, and as you say, that individual stocks could be, it's a high risk, high return kind of a profile. So instead of choosing an individual stock, it's always better to go to a fund where you can really, again, Pratik, you have prepared a beautiful slide deck, very, very informative. I have seen it. So why don't you show us that slide deck? Because there are so much things to learn and there are so much thing to actually understand from that slide.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
again, we can start by, on slide 8. Um, I think so. Basically, microcaps. So this is was perfect. I can just control it
Yeah.
here. So,
Perfect.
what I'll do, and for the audience, I'll go through this presentation. It's a very good presentation. It talks about why microcaps is something that you should look at,
Yes.
and I'll talk maybe in short about why a fund makes sense for someone who wants to get exposure to this aspect, and then we can have a Q&A session. But basically, I talked about this earlier, and this is an excellent slide, very important slide. So if you're investing in a mid cap mutual fund, you are investing in the stocks that are ranked 101 to 250. Very simple. If you invest in a
Um,
small cap fund or a micro
Pratik,
cap fund. Yeah.
प्रतीक ओके there's a request from our viewers, if we can, हम लोग अगर हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हैं
हाँ पक्का पक्का
तो
हाँ
वो
एकदम
बहुत बढ़िया होगा क्योंकि या सो
हाँ
प्लीज
हाँ
यूज
हाँ
हिंदी एज वेल.
यस यस एब्सोल्युटली हाँ तो मैं बोल रहा था कि अगर आप इंडिया के टॉप 500 स्टॉक्स को देखते हो, टॉप 100 स्टॉक्स जो होते हैं वो लार्ज कैप स्टॉक्स होते हैं, 101 से 250 वो रैंक में अगर देखे वो मिड कैप्स होते हैं, उसके बाद 250 टू 500 स्मॉल कैप्स, और जो आप माइक्रो कैप बोल रहे हो वो टॉप 500 के बियॉन्ड होते हैं. तो और अगर आप देखते हो ये मार्केट बहुत ही छोटा है. अगर आप पूरा इंडिया का पूरा आप स्टॉक मार्केट आप मिलाओगे तो ये जो मार्केट है सिर्फ 3% है. सो 97 ऑफ द मार्केट इज द टॉप 500 कंपनीज. तो ये बहुत ही छोटा सेगमेंट है दैट यू आर लुकिंग एट इन्वेस्टिंग. सो अगेन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ये सो व्हाई इज दिस कैटेगरी इंपॉर्टेंट? ये कैटेगरी में है क्या एंड व्हाई डू पीपल इन्वेस्ट इन दिस कैटेगरी? एक है देख, ये कैटेगरी बहुत ही एंटरप्रेन्योरल है. यहाँ पे अगर आप स्टॉक्स देखते हो, बहुत सारे प्रोमोटर होल्डिंग बहुत ही हाई है, तो इसको बोलते हैं स्किन इन द गेम. हम ऐसा देखते हैं कि बहुत सारी जो कंपनियां हैं which are majority owned and managed by promoters tend to do a lot better in terms of performance. So micro cap में आप देखोगे बहुत सारा promoter holding ज़्यादा है, उसके आपसे performance भी आपका अच्छा रहेगा. ये एक एक है. नंबर टू, ये बहुत ही नीश बिजनेसेस है, वेरी नीश, वेरी स्मॉल बिजनेसेस. यहाँ पे क्या है, कंपटीशन भी बहुत कम है. तो अगर आप लार्ज कैप में देखते हो, रिलायंस के साथ बहुत कंपटीशन है, इन्फी के पास बहुत कंपटीशन, लेकिन ये छोटे छोटे कंपनियां हैं, इसके हिसाब से कंपटीशन बहुत कम है, उसके हिसाब से वेल्थ क्रिएशन और अपॉर्चुनिटीज बहुत ही ज़्यादा है ये सेगमेंट में. और लास्टली, ये कंपनियां बहुत छोटी है तो ये बहुत फास्ट ग्रोइंग होती है. तो अगर आप देखते हो, मैं बोला था, when Infosys और TCS had to double, it take a lot more strength. उनको अगर डबल करना हो तो फिर बहुत ज़्यादा they have to try, whereas these smaller companies are much easier to scale up. So I think these three reasons to why we think micro caps are excellent for investing. लेकिन यहाँ पे रिस्क भी बहुत है, रिस्क बहुत है, और इसके इसके बारे में भी मैं बात करना चाहूँगा. यहाँ पे कंपनी स्पेसिफिक भी बहुत है. हम इंग्लिश में बोलते हैं कि ये सेगमेंट में है, गोल्ड माइंस होते हैं और लैंड माइंस भी होते हैं. और इससे you have to be very careful which stock you buy and sell in this index or in this category, क्योंकि बहुत सारे कंपनियां हैं जिसमें रिस्क बहुत हाई है, उनका स्टॉक प्राइस बहुत वोलेटाइल है, वो जीरो तक भी जा सकते हैं. तो इसलिए हमारे हिसाब से यू हैव टू बी वेरी केयरफुल अबाउट व्हिच स्टॉक यू बाय एंड सेल. तो एक सो वन रीजन टू व्हाई माइक्रो कैप्स आर नॉट वेल बॉट, बहुत डिमांड माइक्रो कैप्स में नहीं है. बहुत सारे जो प्रोफेशनल फंड मैनेजर्स हैं, उनके पास माइक्रो कैप स्टॉक्स नहीं होते पोर्टफोलियो में. इसका कारण है कि देयर इज नॉट अ लॉट ऑफ रिसर्च डन ऑन दी स्टॉक्स। अगर आप देखते हो यहाँ पे 250 कंपनियां में 107 ऑलमोस्ट 45% ऑफ द कंपनीज के पास एनालिस्ट कवरेज है ही नहीं। So it's very hard for someone like me or you to take a call about whether it's a good stock or a bad stock. Or and this may also lead to hidden opportunities. Because analyst coverage नहीं है, इसका मतलब है कि ये बहुत सारी अच्छी कंपनियां भी हो सकती है. So this is a big reason to why microcaps are interesting, because there is no analyst coverage, and because of that म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री में भी आपको ये एक्सपोजर आपको मिलेगा नहीं। अगर आप देखते हो हमारे जो म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री में 4% से कम AUM माइक्रो कैप्स में इन्वेस्टेड है। तो अगर आपको ये सेगमेंट में इन्वेस्ट करना हो तो आज के आज कोई भी म्यूचुअल फंड नहीं है, कोई भी पैसिव फंड नहीं है where you can use this to invest in this category। तो बहुत ही अंडर रिसर्च और अंडर ओन्ड कैटेगरी है। इसके हिसाब से अपॉर्चुनिटी भी ज्यादा हो सकती है। I spoke about this, promoter holding is extremely high in micro caps। लार्ज कैप में आप देखोगे कि 100 कंपनियां हैं लार्ज कैप में, and out of 100 companies only 4 companies have a promoter holding of more than 70% in large cap। सिर्फ 4 कंपनियां हैं। मिड कैप माइक्रो कैप में 1/4 of companies have more than 70% promoter holding। इसका मतलब है आपका स्किन इन द गेम ज्यादा है, आपका पावर और इम्पोर्टेंस ज्यादा होता है कंपनी में। रिस्क भी ऑब्वियसली एज आई सेड, रिस्क का मतलब बहुत ज्यादा होता है। हमारे हिसाब से ड्रॉडाउन एक रिस्क होता है। ड्रॉडाउन का मतलब है आपका पैसा, हाउ मच कैन इट गो डाउन फ्रॉम टॉप। और हमने देखा है कि माइक्रो कैप्स का जो ड्रॉडाउन होता है वो लार्ज और मिड कैप से ज्यादा होता है। तो अगर बहुत सारे जो हमारे इन्वेस्टर्स जो इसमें इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टर्स, lot of investors can face drawdowns। इसका मतलब है कि अगर आपको ये index invest in, you have to stay invested for a very long time, for your drawdowns to come back up। So the fund has delivered say 24% over 10 years, but in between those 10 years anything can happen। So for you to be an investor, you have to stick to your investment thesis for 10 years or 7 years, because in the middle your money might go down 30%, 40%, 50%, कुछ भी हो सकता है। But if you want to really make money, then you have to stay in for the long run। So drawdown is high। So with that, हमने माइक्रो कैप स्टॉक्स के बारे में बात किया। अभी हम बात करते हैं हमारा जो फंड है जो हमने लॉन्च किया है उसके बारे में थोड़ा, और फिर उसके बाद वी आंसर सम क्वेश्चंस। ये माइक्रो कैप इंडेक्स होता है क्या? तो अगर आप म्यूचुअल फंड का इन्वेस्टमेंट देखते हो तो देयर इज 2 टाइप्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग, एक्टिव एंड पैसिव। एक्टिव में ये जो फंड मैनेजर होता है वो डिसाइड करता है विच स्टॉक टू बाय, विच स्टॉक टू सेल। हमारे पैसिव फंड्स में कोई फंड मैनेजर होता है नहीं है, वी जस्ट मिरर द। अगर आपने सुना होगा देयर इज निफ्टी, देयर इज सेंसेक्स, ये सब इंडेक्सेस है और हमारा काम होता है ये इंडेक्स का रिटर्न को रेप्लिकेट करना। अगर निफ्टी ने अगर आपको 10% दिया है तो हमारा जो निफ्टी फंड है भी आपको 10% देगा वो टाइम पीरियड में। लेकिन बहुत लोगों ने सिर्फ निफ्टी और सेंसेक्स के बारे में सुना है। देयर इज हंड्रेड्स ऑफ इंडेक्सेस। यू हैव स्मॉल कैप इंडेक्स होता है, मिड कैप इंडेक्स होता है, मल्टी कैप होता है, इंटरनेशनल इंडेक्सेस होते हैं। सो बहुत ही डिफरेंट तरह के इंडेक्स होते हैं, और माइक्रो कैप एक इंडेक्स है जो आपको माइक्रो कैप कैटेगरी में इन्वेस्ट करना आपको मिलता है, ये इंडेक्स है। तो ये जो इंडेक्स है ये जो है माइक्रो कैप कैटेगरी में इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए ऑप्शन है, और दिस का कैप्चर्स टॉप 250 कंपनीज इन माइक्रो कैप्स। तो मैंने सो बेसिकली इन्वेस्ट इन टॉप 250 कंपनीज इन द माइक्रो कैप कैटेगरी, और ये इंडेक्स होता है रीबैलेंस हर 6 महीने में एक बार। तो हर 6 महीने में अगर ये जो दो बेस्ट परफॉर्मिंग कंपनीज है वो अपग्रेड होते हैं स्मॉल कैप्स में, और जो वर्स्ट परफॉर्मिंग है वो निकल जाता है इंडेक्स से। तो ये होता है रीबैलेंसिंग इंडेक्स का। तो बहुत ही आसान सा इंडेक्स है, जो 250 कंपनीज में आप इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो और आप पूरा मतलब इंडेक्स पूरा ये कैटेगरी आप खरीद रहे हो एक फंड में। तो ये फंड है, लॉन्च अभी हुआ है, इसका एनएफओ चालू है। इसका एनएफओ खत्म होगा नेक्स्ट थर्सडे को 29 को, और मिनिमम इन्वेस्टमेंट है 500 रुपीज़, और सब इंफॉर्मेशन आप देख सकते हो फंड के बारे में। ये फंड में ऑल्सो बहुत सारे 250 कंपनियां हैं, बट मेरे हिसाब से बहुत सारे जो इन्वेस्टर्स है उनको कंपनियां मतलब देखनी नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि क्या है टॉप 10 कंपनीज ये इंडेक्स में ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है। सबसे बड़ी कंपनी है उसका वेटेज सिर्फ 1.5% है। तो अगर आपके 250 कंपनियां में 3 या 4 या 5 कंपनियां फेल हो गई तो आपको कोई फर्क पड़ता नहीं है, आपका
Mhm.
इन्वेस्टमेंट अच्छा ही जाएगा। विच इज़ वाई इंडेक्स इज अ ग्रेट वे, बिकॉज यहाँ पे क्या है, फेलियर विल नॉट हैव एन इम्पैक्ट ऑन योर पोर्टफोलियो, बट ओवरऑल ग्रोथ, अगर आप 250 कंपनियां में 10 कंपनियां फेल हुई, इवन 30-40 कंपनीज फेल बट द रेस्ट डू वेल, योर ओवरऑल पोर्टफोलियो विल ग्रो। सो दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। और इसके हिसाब से मेरे हिसाब से बहुत ही ये इंपॉर्टेंट स्लाइड है, बट मेरे हिसाब से आई थिंक टॉप कंपनीज मैटर लेस।
Wonderful. Mm.
और लास्ट परफॉर्मेंस के बारे में बात करेंगे। मेरे हिसाब से ये मतलब लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए अच्छा है। बहुत सारे जो इन्वेस्टर्स हैं जो रिस्क लेना चाहते हैं, लाइक दे आर कंफर्टेबल with taking risk, they can look at this index. As you can see, the performance has been pretty good across cycles. मेरे हिसाब से एस आई पीज के लिए ये बहुत ही अच्छा फंड है वेल्थ क्रिएशन के लिए। अगर आप देखोगे एस आई पीज 1 ईयर, 3 ईयर्स, 5 ईयर्स, 7 और 10 ईयर्स के बीच सब अच्छा ही है। तो मेरे हिसाब से ऑब्वियसली यू हैव टू कीप लो एक्सपेक्टेशंस, बट आई थिंक रिस्क, I mean, looking at the risk of this index, SIP is a very good way of investing. तो हम आज 3 रिस्क के बारे में बात करेंगे। ये फंड में 3 रिस्क है। एक है वॉलेटिलिटी और ड्रॉडाउन, जो मैंने बात किया था।
Mm.
और इसको अगर आपको अवॉइड करना हो तो आपको पेशेंट होना पड़ेगा। यू हैव टू इन्वेस्ट फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म। अगर आप इन्वेस्ट लॉन्ग टर्म में करोगे तो वॉलेटिलिटी और ड्रॉडाउन आपके पोर्टफोलियो में इम्पैक्ट नहीं रहेगा। सेकेंड रिस्क है कि ये जो कैटेगरी है इसमें लिक्विडिटी बहुत कम है। तो उसका 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 जवाब है कि हमने बहुत सारा, मतलब वी डन लॉट ऑफ रिसर्च एंड वी आर वेरी कॉन्फिडेंट दैट वील बी एबल टू मैनेज द लिक्विडिटी वेरी वेल। तो वो लिक्विडिटी मैनेज करना हमारा काम है, और हमने हमारा स्मॉल कैप फंड भी बहुत ही अच्छा मैनेज किया, और ये भी हम करेंगे। एंड थर्ड इज कंपनी स्पेसिफिक रिस्क। ये जो कंपनियां हैं उनका भी बहुत सारे रिस्क होते हैं, और हमारे हिसाब से अगर आप 250 कंपनियां बाय कर रहे हैं तो आप जो ये कंपनी स्पेसिफिक रिस्क नहीं ले रहे हो, क्योंकि आपका पैसा डाइवर्सिफाइड वे में इन्वेस्ट हो रहा है 250 कंपनियों में। So with that, wanted to close the presentation with very few thoughts. आपको ये सेगमेंट में इन्वेस्टमेंट क्यों करना चाहिए, स्टॉक्स या म्यूचुअल फंड जो भी हो, बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट, अंडर रिसर्च, अंडर ओन्ड सेगमेंट है। सो बहुत सारे लोगों ने ये सेगमेंट को देखा नहीं है, इसलिए हिडन अपॉर्चुनिटीज आ सकते हैं ये सेगमेंट में। बहुत सारे नीश बिजनेसेस है, सो स्मॉल बिजनेसेस है, उस हिसाब से कंपटीशन भी बहुत ही कम है। ये इंडिया का, एटलीस्ट हमारे फंड इंडिया का, नॉट ओनली द फर्स्ट पैसिव फंड बट द ओनली फंड जहाँ पे ये कैटेगरी में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो। और हमारा ये जो ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड भी है हमारे, सो आई पर्सनली मैनेज, आई मीन हमारे जो पोर्टफोलियो है, हमारे पास 28 फंड्स है, और हमने लास्ट 4 या 5 सालों में बहुत ही अच्छा काम किया है मैनेजिंग ट्रैकिंग एरर, ट्रैकिंग डिफरेंस। तो वो भी ऑब्वियसली एक एडवांटेज है। सो यही है हमारा प्रेजेंटेशन।
So,
Now we can stop the presentation.
yep. So I think you have really given a very good reason to invest in a micro cap. And as you said, of course, risk is the volatility and drawdown. And but again, this is a passive fund. यहाँ पे you do not have much of stock selection on your own, right? You have to go by the 250 stocks that is there in the index. Now, considering the risk and return, again, for a person like any investor, right? What should be the portfolio allocation towards microcap investing ideally? It should be a part of his main core portfolio or should be a part of his satellite portfolio? So how do you like to answer that?
So पहले तो I would ask myself, am I most investors, I would say in India, most investors in India for wealth creation, उनके लिए large और mid caps is good enough.
Mhm.
Large and mid caps offer excellent opportunities for wealth creation. अगर आपको 20, 30, 50 साल के लिए इन्वेस्ट करना हो तो large and mid caps is very good. If obviously you are able to handle volatility, if you're able to take risk, then this is a very good segment to also create wealth. I would say maybe a 10%, 10-15% maximum allocation, it can be very good for this type of a fund. I think your core allocation आपका जो है वो लार्ज एंड मिड कैप्स में हो सकता है, और फिर अगर आपको स्मॉलर एलोकेशन करना हो 10%, 15%, देन दिस इज अ गुड फंड टू हैव दैट एलोकेशन इन योर पोर्टफोलियो। और ये लो कॉस्ट भी है, पैसिव भी है, तो आपको परफॉर्मेंस की झंझट में आपको होने वाला है नहीं, अंडर
करेक्ट,
परफॉर्मेंस।
करेक्ट। इनफैक्ट हम लोग का जो व्यूअर्स है, आई वुड लाइक टू रिक्वेस्ट देम कि अगर आपका कोई भी क्वेश्चन है, एनीथिंग दैट यू वांट टू लर्न, प्लीज फील फ्री, गो अहेड, टाइप योर क्वेश्चन इन द चैट बॉक्स, एंड आई वुड लाइक टू आस्क Pratik the same question so that, so don't hesitate, please feel free, go ahead and type your question in the chat box. Now again, there are a few things, because it's going to be the first fund, and this kind of fund, never there before. Of course, there is no any comparative this thing. So there is one ratio called turnover ratio, right? But what should be their applicability in your particular fund? Turnover ratio, how buying and selling? You say that every 6 months there will be rebalancing. So according to the rebalancing, your rebalancing will happen, isn't it?
So turnover, I think it's a very good question, and turnover is very important. In fact, high turnover, is actually a good thing, not a bad thing. In this particular index, the turnover is about 40%. So, हर 6 महीने, every 6 months, your portfolio will be turned 2 month by 20%. What that means is, अगर आप 250 कंपनियां में इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो, तो बहुत सारे कंपनियां में होगी that gets upgraded to from micro cap to small cap. जब वो अपग्रेड होता है तो आपके पोर्टफोलियो से निकल जाता है और स्मॉल कैप इंडेक्स में चला जाता है। और बहुत सारे कंपनियां भी होती है जो इनका खराब परफॉर्मेंस के बिकॉज ऑफ बैड परफॉर्मेंस दे एक्चुअली लीव द इंडेक्स, सो दे विल बी churned out of this portfolio, and this happens every 6 months. And the turnover
Mhm.
in this index will obviously go down over time as the index matures, and also as companies mature also, because in this segment, companies can go up and down in terms of market caps. But it's very important to understand that turnover is a good thing, because obviously too much turnover is not a good thing, but some turnover is a good thing because you're ensuring that you're always investing in the top 250 microcap companies.
Mhm.
Just keep that in mind. You are investing not in microcap index. You are investing in the top 250 microcap companies in India. So, and you will always invest in top 250. So even 10 years from now, you will invest in the top 250 companies in the microcap sector. So that requires constant going in and out.
Okay. Now, one of the thing is that, again, it's a micro cap company. Do the fund size, how much of fund that you're going to invest, got any impact? Because these are the small companies, so when you go and deploy your money on a particular stock, there could be price, there could be slippage. The moment you place the order, price goes, shoots up or down, something like that. So what kind of tracking error do you think going to have with this particular fund?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. Microcap mein, the reason was one big reason to why
Hmm.
you don't have a lot of mutual funds entering the space yet is because they are small companies. So the liquidity, the easiness of buying and selling stocks is a lot harder with microcaps than it is with, say, large caps or mid caps or even small caps. So I think that is a challenge, and that will be a
Mm.
challenge in this sector for the next few years. But I think, and with size, at least as we grow our size of the fund, that will be more and more of a challenge. But we, as an AMC, as a mutual fund company, uh, always want to deliver efficiency over higher AUM. तो
Hmm.
अगर हमें लगता है कि 6 महीने में या फिर 8 महीने में या 1 साल में कि हमारा साइज बहुत बढ़ गया है और इसके हिसाब से एफिशिएंसी हमारा कम हो रहा है, बिकॉज ऑफ बाइंग एंड
Hmm.
सेलिंग, हम लमसम्स बंद कर देगी ये फंड।
Ah,
हम सिर्फ SIP, we'll keep SIPs on. So I think that is something that obviously we'll take a call, but we don't see it happening for at least 6 to 8 months time. Right now, there's tons of liquidity. There is good trading activity happening in the space. So, but yes, I think it's a decision that we make over time if we have to.
okay. Now, one more thing again, this is a little bit informal kind of a word. We use the word called in Indian market, called operator. And being stocks, we say that, okay, they manage the stocks. So being a small, very micro cap in size, so for a large trader, it is easier for him to manage. So are you going to face any kind of challenge in that as well?
हाँ, challenges तो हो गए. I think there will be
Mhm.
challenges with certain stocks. I think you're buying a basket of 250 stocks. So
Uh-huh.
challenges faced by, say, three stocks or four stocks will not really make a big difference to your portfolio returns. हमने देखा है कि the largest company, which is a 10,000 crore company, has a 1.5% stake in the index.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there will be challenges with certain stocks, like it has been in small caps. हमने we managed a small cap fund, small cap 250 fund for 4 years now, and the size of micro caps and small caps when we launched was very similar, and we've
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot from our experience of managing that fund. वो fund का tracking error last एक साल में 0.16% है.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is that we've learned a lot from our experiences, and yes, we have dealt with operator stocks in small caps, and yes, we will deal with operator driven small stocks in micro caps, but we're very confident that we'll be able to I think get enough liquidity and manage this fund comfortably.
ओके, सो अगेन संदीप रॉय उन्होंने पूछा है कि which stock to buy. Of course, we do not give any because this is all about fund. If
Hmm.
somebody like Sudeep Roy, he's thinking of buying an microcap stock, so many times we have seen that market goes up and up and up. But when I look at my portfolio, it is not performing, right? So that is why one need to be very careful while, taking his own decision, like which stock to buy.
Hmm.
So in this case, what would you like to tell Sudeep how he should be approaching the market in his investment?
Yeah, I think Sudeep, I obviously I don't have any recommendations for any microcap stocks, unfortunately, because I personally don't track the index. मैं index को मैं companies को track नहीं करता हूँ. मेरे हिसाब से अगर आपको investment करना हो तो mutual fund बहुत ही अच्छा है. But obviously I would say do your research. अगर आपको stock खरीदना हो, बेचना हो तो फिर do your own research, understand the fundamentals of companies or whatever methodology used to invest. आप please stick to your research. मैं ये बोलना चाहूँगा कि अगर आप invest कर रहे हो micro caps में, तो अगर आप 100 रुपए आपका डिप्लॉय कर रहे हो मार्केट्स में, तो माइक्रो कैप्स में आप से 5% 10% डिप्लॉय करो. आपका जो 90% जो है वो आप लार्ज और मिड कैप्स में खेलो, और फिर उसके बाद if you have a small amount you can play in small caps. So I think that's how I would put it, because then because it's a space which is very dynamic. So I would say that if you have an opportunity to pick stocks, do it with a small amount, and then hopefully if it does well you can scale that position.
Wonderful. In fact, there's another viewers. His name is Jargyan, Zharzyan, Jargyan, right? And he's asking a very, very important question. So what he is asking is, sir, you said that microcap is the most under research, most under research. So the question is, what few parameters are those 250 stocks selected? What are the parameters? Could be, what are the PE multiples? What are the EPS of this particular 250 index? And if you can give throw some more light into it.
हाँ, very good question. So again, so this is a passively managed fund. इसका मतलब क्या होता है
Mhm.
कि we don't do any stock selection. There is no parameters that we use. We simply take the Nifty का जो होता है, Nifty index होता है, वहाँ से हम 250 स्टॉक जो Nifty index में है, उसको हम replicate करते हैं. So actually, under research is a advantage for us, because we
Yes.
get to play the entire index, entire 250 stocks,
Mhm.
regardless of how much of research is there or not. So you get to play all these companies and their potential, regardless of if they're researched or not. So I think again, we don't use parameters. If it's if and the way Nifty index is constructed is size wise. तो अगर आप 250 stocks में the biggest companies will have the largest size. So your stock number one will be 10,000 crore, and stock number 250 will be 1,000 crore. So ये 1,000 to 10,000 crore के I think segment is what you're playing, and you're
Mhm.
playing on all 250 stocks. So very simple. The only parameter we use or the index uses is size. Size के हिसाब से हम invest करते हैं.
Okay. So, viewers, अगर आपका पास कोई भी questions हैं, please feel free, ask your question in the chat box. In fact, I have the next question from Archana Gaikwad. So she's asking, like, invest in a microcap fund. Isn't it very risky or not? Please answer, sir. So we already
Yeah,
talked about it, but again, I think she's joined a little bit late. But please.
I think investing in equity is risky. investing in microcap is more risky than say so equity investing is investing into stocks, and वहाँ पे you have different risk levels, large caps, mid caps, small caps, micro caps, and so within all equity segments, micro cap is the most risky. And so which is why, as a investor, you have to ask yourself, can I take that much risk? However, if you're able to take risk, then the returns are also there for microcaps. So if you're able to handle volatility, if you're able to handle drawdowns, then yes, you can also expect higher returns. But yes, you have to again, you have to really ask yourself, what does risk mean to you? I think if you how risk taking you are, because I think index is if you, and again, if you want to mitigate the risk, अगर आपको risk कम करना हो तो फिर आप SIP भी कर सकते हो. That's one way of mitigating risk in this sort of a fund. But yes, it's a risky segment, and you have to be careful before investing in these segments.
Okay. So again, what is your outlook now? We spoke about it. We are very bullish. So how do you think this is outlook for 2023, 24? 24 is again the year of election, and right now there are so many bright spots in the Indian economy, and you have said that earning momentum has already picked up. So what do you think in 2023-24 is mid cap, this micro cap sector is going to perform as a whole?
No, I think I'm very optimistic. Not on microcaps, but in equity in general. I think
Mhm.
very good stage in the market. Global flows. पूरे दुनिया में सिर्फ इंडिया का नाम जा रहा है अभी. So I think global
Mhm.
flows are going to pick up in a very big way. Companies are performing really well. अगर आप देखोगे performance, if you look at just the earnings of companies, they've grown spectacularly over the last 1 year, over the last 2 years, and so I think stock market. If you look at stock market, it's a combination of what valuation you get and what your earnings are. Very simple. If your earnings are not growing but the valuation is growing, that means your stock price will go up. If your
Mhm.
valuation is not growing but your earnings are growing, your stock market will go up. But if the earnings are growing and the valuation is growing, then your stock will go very up. So I do feel
Double.
that, but the most important over the long run, valuations actually matter less. What matters is earnings. अगर आप लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर हो, आप you will want to track the earnings of companies, and that is actually
Mhm.
in a very good state. So long term, earnings look exceedingly good right now, and obviously, micro caps, because they're smaller companies, उनका जो earnings potential है, growth potential is slightly bigger than you would expect in large and mid caps. So I do feel that personally, I feel like it's a big opportunity. Yes, it's and it could be a great wealth creator over the next decade.
Yeah, I think Pratik, you have really given a fantastic, number one is a presentation. Number two, you have really conceptually cleared many aspects about why we should be going for the microcap investing, why there's a big opportunities that is lying ahead of us. In fact, we have been listening to so many people talking about that the next 10 years probably is going to be one of the transformative years for India, right? And there, the role of microcap, the microcaps are going to be mid caps, small caps are going to be mid cap, and that is where how the wealth is being created, right? So again, your closing comments to investors, what they should be doing as a whole in the market, about your closing comments, please.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Neeraj ji and also Paytm Money for having me. But I mean, the my closing comments are, I mean, at least from the perspective of this conversation is that I think as investors, we unlike the US. US, if you
Mhm.
look at the equity market in the US, you don't have 500, you have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 stocks that you could play with.
Correct.
There's just so much opportunity to create wealth, to pick stocks, and I do feel that for India to get there over the next, say, decade, we need to increase our depth of the market. Right now, if someone had to put in 20 crores in microcap stocks, it's very difficult. So I do think that with time, we as investors will be spoiled for choice. Right now, we only have 500 names that we can consider, But I'm very confident that over time we'll have 750,000, 2,000, 3,000 stocks that we can own. And I think that is the opportunity that we'll see over the next few years. And obviously, with this fund, we're very glad that we're able to provide a retail option to clients. The microcap space can only be accessible through AIF PMS, which is a for 50 lakhs, 1 crore sort of investment. We're very glad that we're able to provide access to this segment for 500 rupees. So I think that is one thing which we're very proud, and hopefully we'll see a lot of investors sort of entering or using our fund to get exposure to the space.
Yes, in fact, although Pratik, we said that closing comments, in fact, some questions are still coming. Would you like to advise it to a new investors who is going to invest for the first time in the market?
Yeah, new investors should not
This
invest in this
question
fund.
is from Chandra Mohan.
Chandra Mohan. Yes, Chandra Mohan. New investors, I would not recommend to buy this fund. I would go with a Nifty 50 or a Nifty 500 or a fund. I think those are excellent first time funds. If you're building a portfolio, always start with large caps and then go downwards. So start with large cap funds, and then over time, if you're comfortable with the volatility that comes with equity investing, you can go down the order for higher returns. But I would say, start up, don't start down. Start with large caps and then move down as you become more and more comfortable. But yeah, Nifty 50 or Nifty 500 is an excellent option for you to start off with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pratik. It's a wonderful session. Nice talking to you. And also would like to thank all the viewers for being for being a part of this program. And wish you all the best. Thank you. So with this, would like to end this program here. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.